ألم يأن للذين آمنوا أن تخشع قلوبهم لذكر الله وما نزل من الحق.
نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم والذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. My dear brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us Muslims with a delight in this dunya. He's blessed us with something that causes our hearts to be at ease and causes our stress and worries to go away. And wallahi, this blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us is nothing else than ibadah. The ability to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the delight of the eyes of the Muslim. Is that which causes the heart of the Muslim to be at ease and to find enjoyment in this dunya. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. They did not create mankind and the jinn except to worship Him. And this worship, barakallahu feekum, sometimes we get it confused and we think that worship is just praying and salat and zakat. But there's a secret to the worship that many times we miss and we overlook. As the ulama, they describe worship to be ismun jami'un lima yuhibbuhu Allah wa yardah min al-aqwali wal-af'ali al-batina wal-zahira. That worship is any action or statement, whether it's inside or outside, to be shown from that which is pleasing to Allah and Allah loves. So anything, subhanAllah, that we do seeking to please Allah, seeking to earn the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's worship. And this worship is what makes up our life. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions and He says in the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا ارْكَعُوا وَاسْجُدُوا وَاعْبُدُوا رَبَّكُمْ وَافْعَلُوا الْخَيْرَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. Allah Ta'ala, He calls out to the believers, and He calls out to us, instructing to us, O you who believe, prostrate, make ruku' and bow down to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Worship your Lord and do the acts of goodness so that you might be successful. Showing us that our success in this life in the dunya, فَلَا طَرِيقَ لِلْفَلَاحِ سِوَاءَ الْعِبَادَةِ الْخَالِصِ لِخَالِقِ Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. That there's no way for us to be successful in this dunya and have happiness in our lives except by purely worshiping Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And if our worship is not purely for the sake of Allah, there's no success and there's no happiness for us. And then Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala instructs us further. He says, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ اعْبُدُوا رَبَّكُمْ الَّذِي خَلَقَكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Allah says, O mankind, showing us this is general for anyone. O mankind, worship your Lord who created you and who created those who came before you so that you might gain taqwa. That the effect of worship in our life, the effect of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that we become better human beings. But the question comes now, subhanallah, that many of us, we bow down, many of us, we prostrate to Allah, many of us, we fast and we do the acts of worship, but it doesn't change our lives. Our lives are not becoming better due to the worship of Allah. Some of us, perhaps our lives even become worse, and we worship Allah, and we call ourselves to be Muslims. What is the issue with us? Why are our lives not changing by the ibadah? Why are our lives not becoming happy due to worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It comes in the hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where he says, رُبَّ الصَّائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ حَظٌّ مِّن صَوْمِهِ إِلَّا الْجُوعُ وَالْعَطَشُ وَرُبَّ قَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ حَظٌّ مِّن قِيَامِهِ إِلَّا السَّهْرُ وَالنَّصْرُ. That perhaps a person might fast, and the only is hunger and thirst. And perhaps another person might stand up and pray at night, and the only thing they get from their prayer is staying up at night in tiredness. What's the difference, barakallahu feekum, that some people, they worship Allah and their worship reaches to the skies and Allah accepts it? And the difference between some people, subhanAllah, when they worship Allah, it doesn't raise past the first heaven. What is the difference that two people might make the same salah, and one of them, they get rewarded 1,000,000 times for that salah, and the other person gets no reward at all? The difference, barakallahu feekum, we find in the life of our father Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. The difference we find is that there's a secret to worship that many of us overlook. That worship, barakallahu feekum, is not just the actions, but there's a heart, a soul to the worship that the Muslim needs if he wants to be successful. And the only way he'll achieve success, the only way his heart will gain taqwa, is if he understands this secret. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran many times in many different ways. He says to his Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ثُمَّ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ أَنِ اتَّبِعْ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ حَنِيفًا وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. Allah Ta'ala says that I instruct you, I've sent down and inspired to you, that you obey, you follow the way of Ibrahim. Hanifan. Ibrahim was Hanif. And when we understand the meaning of this word Hanif, we understand the secret of ibadah. And he says he was not from amongst the mushrikeen. And Allah Ta'ala says in another ayah, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهِ وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ حُنَفَاءَ. Allah Ta'ala says they were not ordered. Their command was not to do anything except to worship Allah. That their success in this life in the dunya will be found in what? Worshipping Allah. Making their deen sincerely for Allah. حُنَفَاءَ. And being amongst those who are like the Hanif Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. So when we look at this word that Allah commands us to be like, Hanifan, we have to ask us, what was Ibrahim that made him special? What gave him this specialty? That he was Hanif. That Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam didn't focus on anything else in this dunya except for how to please Allah. That he was mad ala kulli shay'in. That he turned away from everything else besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His focus, his desire, his whole objective of living was how to please and love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His worship was built upon that. So his worship had delight to it. And Allah Ta'ala says to us, وَمَنْ يَرْغَبُ عَنْ مِلَّةِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ إِلَّا مِنْ سَفِهَ نَفْسَهُ. That nobody turns away in this dunya from being like that, from having an objective of pleasing Allah, from having their objective to focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except for the one who treats his soul foolishly. How foolish can we be to our soul to focus on the small things of this dunya? How foolish can we treat our soul to pay attention to something besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who created us in the heavens and the earth? That this is what we were created for. Not just to look like Muslims and talk like Muslims, but to believe and have the heart of a Muslim. Wallahi barakallahu feekum, from amongst the greatest benefits that we learned, and we benefited from this last trip to Hajj, barakallahu feekum, is that we learned not about the monastic of Hajj, not about Mina and Muzdalifah and Arafah and Jamarat, but wallahi the tawheed that's found in Hajj. You don't find this anywhere else, and you find this is the way of the life of the Muslim. That the Muslim's life is to be built upon this type of tawheed and everything they do. Found in the talbiyah of Labayk Allahumma Labayk. That when the believer is instructed by the Prophet ﷺ, we see the Prophet ﷺ, that he would make this talbiyah, Labayk Allahumma Labayk. It doesn't just mean I'm here, oh Allah, but rather it's a response to a call to obey Allah. That, oh Allah, I've come to do your service, and I'm not here for any other reason besides to please you. Regardless of what difficulties might go on in this trip. And wallahi, for those who made the Hajj, they know there's some difficulties. There's some hardships. But you're instructed, and the Sunnah shows you that if you go up a hill, you say more Labayk Allahumma Labayk. You go down, you say Labayk Allahumma Labayk. You see something you don't like, you make the talbiyah. This is our life as a Muslim. That we realize that our whole life is built upon obeying Allah. Responding to the call to obey Allah. That's not just for Mecca. It's not just for the Hujjaj, but that's for the Muslims in totality. That our life is built upon responding to the call of Allah. learning to love Allah, responding again, labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Here I am, Allah, to obey you. I didn't come for no other reason. I'm not in this dunya for no other reason except to obey you, O Allah. La sharika lak. And there's no one else that I'm here to focus on besides you. And if we pay attention to this in our dunya, even here back in America, wherever we are, then we'll have the delight of our dunya. We'll have the delight of our ibadah. Once we realize that our heart shouldn't be attached to anything besides Allah. That every blessing, inna alhamda wa ni'mata laka wal mulk, la sharika lak. Every praiseworthy characteristic, every benefit and blessing, it comes from Allah alone. How can we love anyone besides Allah? How can we focus on anything besides Allah? How can we let the dunya snatch our heart away when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself created us? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gives us every benefit and blessing that we have. And we see again from the life of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, that this is not just a Hajj thing or a Mecca thing, but this is a dunya thing for us to learn. That when Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was going to be thrown into the fire, what difficulty is bigger than this? That you see a huge fire being built for you to burn in. And what was Ibrahim's statement? He said, قَالَ إِنِّي ذَاهِبٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينِ. That I'm going to go to my Lord and He'll guide me. And the ulama Khadr rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, ذَاهِبٌ بِعَمَلِهِ وَقَلْبِهِ وَنِيَّتِهِ. That he was going to Allah with his actions, that his actions are firmly focused on pleasing Allah. That his heart is focused on getting close to Allah. That his intention is not for anything besides to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إن الله غفور رحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين على أمور الدنيا والدين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد خاتم النبيين وآله وصحبه أجمعين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. My dear brothers and sisters, if a person was to leave this dunya and not know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they've left this dunya as a loser. If they were to leave this dunya and not to let their heart become filled with the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they will leave this dunya as a loser. If they were to leave this dunya, barakallahu feekum, and they don't taste the sweetness of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then regardless of what they amassed of the dunya things and the dunya pleasures, they will leave this dunya as a loser. Because wallahi, this dunya was created for us to learn Allah, to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to know the greatness of our Creator subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah ta'ala said, Allah الذي خلق سبع سماوات والأرض مثلهن يتنزل الأمر بينهن لتعلموا أن الله على كل شيء قدير وأن الله قد أحاط بكل شيء علما. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said He's the one who created the 7 heavens and the 7 earths. And His command goes down between them. And He did this, why? For the reason, لِتَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. So that you may know, so that we may know that Allah is able and capable to do any and everything. And so you might know that the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surrounds everything. If you leave this dunya without understanding and truly believing that, then you left this dunya as a loser. This is the reality, barakallahu feekum, that will bring sweetness, insha'Allah ta'ala, to our worship. That when we understand that regardless of what is going on around us, what distractions might come to us, what desires besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes to us, none of it matters if we're focused on Allah. If we make the same intention as Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam used to make, إِنِّي ذَاهِبٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينِ, that if I make my intention to go towards Allah, Allah will do the rest. Our job is to do the first, and Allah will take care of the rest for us. But we have to focus hard. And of course, there's distractions in this dunya. But our tawheed, our worship of Allah, our singling out Allah alone for worship has to be the most important thing to us. It can't be more important. Nothing can be more important than us trying to please Allah. Anything else that gets in the way of that, it has to be removed from our life. هذا وصلى الله عليه وسلم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم إنا نسألك الجنة وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل، ونعوذ بك من النار وما قرب إليها من قول وعمل. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه، ولا تجعله ملتبسا علينا فنضل. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. وأقم الصلاة.